This conference will now be recorded.
Well, let me get started with the housekeeping. So welcome today, everybody, to the FSPA Branch Transformation Committee discussion about success. This session is going to be recorded. Everyone is muted. We do encourage you to participate in the conversation. You can raise your hand. You can use the chat. This will be uploaded onto the FSPA website sometime in the next couple of days. And again, thank you everybody for joining us here today. I'm going to put a shameless plug in right now at the beginning that this committee will be presenting at the FSPA conference in Fort Myers, Florida, May 1st through the 4th. So if you'd like to join us and see these spectacular people in person, please register and plan to come to the conference. The presentation by the Branch Transformation Committee is Wednesday morning. And with our featured speaker, we did find a banker this year that's going to talk about his views on the future of banking. So I hope you decide to come join us. And with that, I'd like to open the discussion because today we're going to talk about how we define success. How do you view success? I mean, to me, that basically comes down to, is the customer excited to buy again? But it's a long journey from that first meeting to getting to that point. So let's talk about success, how we start, where we go, and how we get there. So anybody wants to open that up? Let's take it away.
Well, BJ, I guess I'll cross the line here on that. And it's really, I think it goes back to one of the things that Dave Pepin always kind of preached is how do we get to the second sale? So the process that we do the first, we need to ensure that it allows us to get to that next sale, because that's the ultimate goal, is to do your proof of concept with that particular customer, and then get to 2, 3, 4, 500, whatever that happens to be. So how do you do that? And you do that by putting the procedures and practices into place to allow you, for that customer to understand that you are the subject matter expert. You know what you're talking about. You know how to help them avoid the pitfalls of doing that. And some of the things, you do that by creating documents that you can put in front of them and let them know that you've thought about these things before you even get to that first meeting. Here's the process that we follow. Because really, in our business, we're all emergency room doctors. We don't get upset about a gunshot, okay? A general practitioner may get upset about that, but they walk into our room. We've been there, done that. We just need to translate that experience over to them.
I think one of the things that we're talking about is getting that expectation set up and making the customer actually define what success is going to be before we ever get started. How do they see? What do they see as a successful outcome? What is the goals? What have they defined? And what are they looking for out of this branch transformation? I think for a lot of FSPA members dealing with the smaller banks, the issue is that you're not even competing against somebody else. Can you do it better? And success isn't that you blew away the competition. It's that is, if your branch transformation efforts with this bank don't succeed, they may not move forward with anything. You certainly won't get the next sale, and they're going to look at what went on and the amount of money they spent and be fairly disillusioned about this process that they keep hearing about. So I think, again, we've talked on prior sessions about defining that success and setting those expectations, um, and especially with a bank that's not in it big time and they're putting their big toe in the water. You're getting that first sale, as we've talked about, but are you going to get the next one? Are they going to be excited to buy again? Are they looking forward to the other branches getting involved in this process? Um, so Adam, you had something you were.
Well, yeah, I think, when we think about defining success, I think it definitely starts. I think a lot of my thoughts on this, I think, were covered very well by Joey, and just thinking about the end during the beginning of the conversation. And so really trying to understand what those objectives are up front, and then just documenting the success along the way, I think is very critical. I think the kind of the biggest challenge, I think a lot of times when we're thinking about how do we move a branch transformation conversation to a broader discussion about all of their branches, is a lot of times uh, you get in those conversations where they're focused on one branch, right? We're building a new branch, or we're renovating a new branch, and we want to implement X technology. And so thinking about how do you transition from that conversation as a salesperson or as a solution expert, um, tactfully, from let's try to solve this immediate need, to let's talk about how does this actually work in your overall process. At least that's from a lot of the experience I've seen, is folks get in that situation where they're talking about a specific branch of, maybe they've got 10 branches, but we kind of get stuck with the one. I think always thinking about those other branches and their overall process, and how this can potentially be rolled out to their entire network, I think is the. And I'd love to hear anybody's, any of your feedback on how to transition from that single focus on that one branch to a broader discussion, so that you can talk about the successes of whatever technology it is that you're implementing.
And Adam, that is a great point. That transactional sell to solve that one immediate problem to that solution. And how do you evolve the conversation to get it to a broader discussion? That's an excellent point. And folks on the call, there's a lot of knowledge. With Adam, I see some folks that I know on the call here, and Terry, that have kind of been through some of those issues or discussions or whatever you want to call it. Make sure you give them a call, and we love to talk about solutions and how to have a broader conversation. I mean, you have that full transparency call where we talk about, I happen to be in the cash automation software business, but we have to talk about the competitors too, because you folks have to have a relationship with all of us. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. And so you have to have those conversations with them and say, okay, the institution has made this choice. Well, you need to call this person because they can help you with that call, and have that more educational discussion with them, and allow you to get to the next sale.
Yep.
Hey, Terry, do you want to talk about how you start the follow-up process once you've installed a piece of equipment? How do you then, what's your first follow-up? How do you manage that?
I'm not sure. We only have really one customer that's doing branch transformation right now. They've built on that quite a bit. And they started one branch, two branches, and then they were looking at their third branch, but unfortunately they just ran out of money. They just can't justify it at this time. So yeah, we're still working on that, but we're still looking for new customers and quoting it all the time. But we just don't see that much growth in branch transformation solutions right now. It's even hard to get a lot of our customers to adopt deposit-taking ATMs. Mostly everything we're putting out there has capability to be field upgraded for ATMs, but to deposit taking, but no, they're just not doing it.
One of the things that we like to do is have an after action report with them. Okay, we've installed number one. Let's go in there and let's talk about what was successful. Did it meet the original goals of what you're talking about? This is an easy conversation with them because they will want to tell you what was good and what was bad. So schedule that secondary follow-up call. Don't wait for them to call you and start here. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. If you go ahead and you schedule that, you can turn it into more of a positive conversation. So you definitely, 2 weeks after that solution rolls out, let's talk about the good, let's talk about the bad. And then they know that they can call you and have these discussions with you, and you become more of a consultant, a solution salesperson. And those are the types of places you want to go, and you want to do this after every rollout that you do. You want to call them, you want to hear the good, you want to hear the bad. That's the only way that we can improve. I don't want that customer to fester.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't do something right. We didn't train them right way. My software's not working right. A process that we told them is not fitting well with them. That's all part of it. So we can make adjustments. There's other folks that I can call to say, how can I do this better? And you just do that, and you'll want to talk to an Adam, a Josh, a Terry, whomever out there, and just let them advise you on, okay, this process didn't work. What am I doing wrong? How can I advise them? And these folks on the call that have backgrounds in this, they will assist you. They will help you. They will try to give you another way to look at it to go forward.
I think a lot of it comes back to, is the branch also being properly managed? I mean, is your person that was your proponent, your champion at the branch, staying engaged? Are the people in the branch, again, I mean, there's immediate turnover. Is the training correct? Are the employees, the tellers, transitioning to their new roles? So there's a lot of it on the actual operations side of the branch that, again, I guess the only way to get a handle on that is either the feedback from the branch or go spend some time there, and actually watch what's happening in the branch. Do any of you go back in and actually just observe what's happening? Get permission. So people don't like to have you watching their tellers, but could you get permission to go back and see what they're actually doing? Are they doing what they were trained to do? Is that change management, is that culture working in the new layout, in the new situation? Um,
I think that's a super important kind of best practice, BJ. And you know, if I wasn't in my current role where, I don't have as much day to day or, you know, activity in the field with actual end users. If I was if I was a regional salesperson and I had a book of business that had, um, you know, these types of, product that have either been rolled out and been rolled out for a while, I think a really good best practice is, offer your free consulting to go in and do that kind of assessment, either 6 months after install. Um, a lot of times the people that you talk to on a daily basis don't talk to the branch staff on a regular basis. They're not getting this type of feedback that can be valuable. And it really has a double win potential, right? One of them is I need to find the wins so I can, pound my chest over how good things are going. But it's also maybe the bad stuff hasn't bubbled up yet. Maybe that was an adoption issue. Maybe there's some opportunity for some more training at the branch level. Maybe there's some technical issues that seem to be some pain points, or some errors that are happening that aren't making it up. That's just going to kill your potential future rollouts. Be visible, be involved, and don't be afraid to just go in and get the real feedback from the branch staff, obviously with permission. You don't want to be a creeper.
And Adam, that's a great point because we all forget about how much turnover there is in branches. So it's a knowledge loss. They are doing bad procedures and then they just add to the bad procedures, which when it's time to buy that next box or solution, they're going like, well, this is not so great. Well, have you varied so far from the way that you were trained and the practices that you're doing? Yes, you're making it tough. Let's go back, let's do a level reset and train them, go back into that branch and talk to them about that solution and say, if you did it this way, you would have a much more positive outcome here. So be visible with them. Do not be concerned to retrain them because like I said, we all forget sometimes how much turnover there is in branches and that knowledge loss and then that perpetuation of a bad practice that just gets told to the next person and told to the next person, and it just keeps changing and migrating and festering.
Now, one of the
Yeah.
other things is to bring in the customer's point of view when you're talking about defining success. So, ask your contact at the financial institution, what are your customers saying about this? Get not only do you want good adoption from this type of technology from the branch staff, but I'll tell you, if you've got really solid customer feedback, that's gonna justify future rollouts quicker than anything else. It's what does the customer think about this? How does this impacting their, branch experience, in a positive or a negative way, right? You don't be afraid of the potential negative feedback because that's an opportunity to really think about, okay, then what can be done differently to improve that. And if you empower your person at the financial institution to actually respond to negative customer feedback with an actual solution, then they become the bank or the business that actually responds to customer feedback. So it's, I think, don't forget whether this is an ITM or a new ATM type of equipment, or whether this is whatever it is, if it touches the customer experience, what does the customer think about it?
Do we have any of the callers on the line that have a good ITM experience that they want to throw out there? Please speak up.
I think that the disconnect sometimes between the people who bought the equipment and what's going on in the branch and the customers is an interesting problem to solve, because I've been on a couple of installations for both of you for recyclers, and it's interesting to watch the tellers when they're excited about it, how they interact with the customers. Like the customer will say, "Oh, you've got something new," and when they don't stand there and count the money to the teller, the teller counts the money to the customer, and they just hand them the money, and it's a different process. But they're excited about it, and they talk to the customer about it. Then the customer gets this feedback from the teller that the branch is progressive, that the bank is bringing into new technology, that it's making the lines move quicker, that the teller isn't spending as much time head down counting money, that they're interacting, that creates a good feeling in the customer base that will show up in your feedback, however the financial institution is getting that feedback from the customer, surveys or whatever. But the teller's enthusiasm feeds the customer enthusiasm, from what I've seen when I was on site. And if you're lucky enough that someone from the branch hierarchy that had come in to see how it's going sees the tellers excited about it, and talking about how it's saving them time, and how balancing at the end of the day takes minutes, and they're done and they're leaving the branch on time, then your VPs and your senior VPs and the president of the bank see that, then it bolsters your case. And the interesting thing to me was how to get those pieces to come together, because those people, you've got to get the tellers to talk to the customers about it. And the easiest way that I saw was actually, at add-on, one of the excitement of the installation and talking to the customers during training about the changes in this. And then Joey, I remember Bank of Tennessee, that head teller, so excited about the closing process at the end of the day and becoming such a proponent to everybody who walked in the branch about how this was going to change how the branch operated and how happy the tellers were, and this new technology and banking is evolving. And again, you get somebody from headquarters coming in and seeing this transformation in the branch, and you build this excitement and you build these proponents of branch transformation, and it just sort of fed itself, and suddenly you're getting orders to roll out to the next bunch of branches. But getting that communication going is something that I think, as the solution provider, that we all need to do to make sure that that feedback loop is happening. And again, sales being on site when that installation is going on and working with their customers, and being pretending that just staying around the lobby as a customer, watching that feedback and making sure that the teller's enthusiasm is there and that it's contagious, I guess is the right word. What a difference that makes in the future of that relationship with that customer.
One of the other things, BJ, is for everybody to be mindful of who your audience is. I mean, we'll go into demos a lot of times and you'll have the bank president on the line. You'll have a couple of VPs. You'll have some tellers out there, some retail operations folks. And the folks that actually work with my solution during that demo will not speak up. The tellers and those folks will not talk, because you've got the president there and nobody wants to say something stupid in front of the president, me included. And so you just don't talk. So if you have the opportunity during that revisit, talk to that individual group, that tellers. Don't bring in other folks in there if you can do that. Or if you're in that meeting where you have that president and the tellers out there, make sure you spend time with the tellers, find out the people that are going to be the ones that become the squeaky wheel if we're not doing something right. If our solution is not a good fit or our process is not a good fit, they are going to become the squeaky wheel, which is then going to go up to the people that, for us, sign the checks on what they want to buy for the next solution. So make sure you spend some time with that group also, and iron out whatever you can, or bring in the right people to iron out those issues.
I think it's interesting for the real traditional bank equipment dealers, because in the early world of every branch being built, had to have a vault door and safe deposit boxes and a drive up and a safe. And there was kind of this order taking, you knew you were going to get the order. You didn't have to sell it. You didn't have to prove to them that they needed a vault or a safe or safe deposit boxes. They came to you and told you they needed it. And certainly with the Bank Security Act, they had to have everything the branch down the street had. So if they had video surveillance and a high-tech alarm system, you were supposed to meet the criteria of your community. And suddenly with branch transformation, you're in a whole nother world, because it will not move forward without some good support in that sales process. And I think the bank equipment world, in the early days, because of the hardware sale, you're used to not having to do a push sale, not do something that the customer might not be comfortable with. You were selling equipment the customer knew they needed. Plus you were selling a piece of equipment, spending a day training. You didn't need to go back and train on that equipment. You didn't need to monitor the process or prove that the drive up was doing its job, or prove that the safe deposit boxes were doing their job. And it seems like in this world, with recyclers and ATMs and AI and data analysis, that you need to work with the customer to get them to understand that, yes, this is doing what we proposed. They're not subject matter experts. They're not defining that success. They're depending on the solution provider almost to prove to them that the situation is successful. And I think this is an entirely different sales cycle than the traditional older bank equipment dealers that are on this call uh, had lived with. You're bringing in things that rock the boat, that change processes that we never touched before. We didn't, adding a safe or teller pedestals didn't change any process in the branch. Now we're changing processes and getting involved with things and back office operations and teller software that was not part of that transition. And I think for a lot of the bank equipment dealers that are doing branch transformation with small community banks, that this idea of having to actually prove your success is a big hurdle because we didn't have to do it before. And now being involved with the metrics and the change management and how does the branch look different, and are they meeting their goals for the transition of transactions, of what percentage was going to be happening. I think walking them through that process and staying involved is probably the most important part of the after sale process, as we've talked about today. But I still go back to the early days. You plugged something in, you walked away. You didn't have to go back. You didn't have to prove it was working. They're using the drive up. We're good. They'll call you if it breaks. If the key doesn't work in the safe deposit box, they're going to call you. With the branch transformation, it can deteriorate because of the turnover and the training fading, and you won't even know. Nobody's going to call you up. You're just not going to get that next sale. So that to me was one of the interesting things in getting involved with this, because I started out with recyclers, thinking you plugged it in and you walked away. I had no clue. It's going to count money. The teller's trained to count the money now they're using the recycler. Not a problem. And the transition and the change management came as a nasty little lesson in the beginning because we weren't getting repeat sales. And then we got through the knowledge of add-on and benchmark and CompuFlex and everybody else involved. All of a sudden I figured out, oh yeah, and some great techs that were on site and providing feedback that, yeah, this is a black hole that we're going to fall in if we don't come up with a way to prove the solution is working and to be able to support the case for the rollout.
And BJ, one of the things that we're running into nowadays is because software is controlling more and more of what the hardware is doing out there. You're getting those bankers out there that says, okay, you've got to tell me how this is going to affect my network. Have you got these security boxes checked? Have you done this? So y'all may want to give it some thought out there to have these answers ready for when you get hit with that, of if you're trying to sell this solution, what does that look like for me? How is it going to affect me with the auditors? All of these kind of things, because we have kind of a pre-prepared package of a lot of things where they're doing vendor due diligence out there and all of these boxes that you have to check. So you have to have these packages or these answers ready for them to be able to be successful in there, or they will shut you out at the door. They will close the door in your face sometimes if you're not prepared to answer those questions. I know, we're getting more of, okay, what kind of scanning are you doing on your software for intrusions? Okay, my software sits in the bank's network, so if they're intruding my software, the bank's got a bigger problem because they're intruded the bank's network first. But you still get hit with all these questions because they want to have that answer. So you need to work with whomever your software provider is in your solution and make sure, learn about these questions that they're getting hit with so you can get to that sale, you can get to that next sale. Just something to consider because it's coming, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a vendor and you're hooked up with software, we had a great session on that at the Lexington conference with Hensley Elam, he talked about, what the requirements are and what you need to do and what you need to be prepared for, because it's becoming a big issue. And that IT department, like you said, they can just shut everything down. I learned to have, I think Josh is on this call. I learned when I was trying to do implementation calls to have an IT person on the call, because if you even hesitate, they just assume you don't know what you're talking about. And on a call with operations and human resources and, purchasing and everybody, like you said, Joey, you could look like an idiot pretty quick when they said, well, how about this? And you can't answer the question. So you had to have somebody who could talk their language on the call, because that fast reaction of here's what we do and here's how we do it would kind of put that IT in its own box and not let it just derail the entire sales process and shut you down. Because IT these days has a lot of power.
And if you're not prepared to answer, tell them. Let
Yeah.
me get the answer. I will get back to you, and you make sure you get back with them, and you let them know that you ran it down. You got the issue, because there are very technical questions that you folks get when it's in a solution sale that there's no way that everyone can know all the answers to this. And so just make sure that you're comfortable with saying, I don't know. I will get back with you, and you do follow up.
Yeah, for sure.
BJ, can we open it up to any other questions that folks may have about? I mean, we've talked a lot.
Yeah, anybody that has any questions, you want to use the chat box, you raise your hand, I can unmute you. You can unmute yourself. How do you want to, anybody have anything that they'd like to add to the conversation or talk about their outline and how they define success? Not seeing anything. I know a lot of you out there have had big experiences with this. It's not an easy learning curve.
Maybe it was a bad idea, BJ.
Good try, Adam.
Again, I mean, when we were talking about planning this session, one of the things that you have to do is define success. And I got a lot of books on the shelf. I kind of went back through some of those things that talk about how to sell and how to define success. But what it really came down to me is just if they're excited to buy again. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. I mean, if you sell one, you're and done. Our customer bases in this industry are not so big that we can blow through our customer list with one sale, one demo set up each and not continue. So there's a lot at stake here of making sure you're getting those multiple sales from that time and effort on that first sale. And so to me, it just comes down to buying. If they buy from you again and they're excited about the process and they saw the transformation and the metrics they wanted. So I kind of looked at all the other books and thought, no, it really just is do I get more sales?
BJ, I've kind of looked at it from a cost analysis standpoint to some degree. What does it cost me to get that first sale? $50,000. I got to go to these conferences. I got to make all these phone calls. These people have got to be involved, all of these kind of things. How much does it cost me to get that second sale? That customer knows us. They know that we're, a reputable somebody to deal with or something like that. Half? Does it only cost me $25,000? Does it cost me whatever the number happens to be? But so it's a cost analysis. Make sure you work those customers that you've already got a relationship with. Always chase the new ones. We all need new customers. You need that fresh view, that fresh blood in there. But make sure you follow up with the customers that you have been successful, and how do you make them to continue to be successful with the solution that you've talked about. It is a pure cost analysis, and you can look at it and say that, okay, customer cost me X. my existing customer costs me somewhat half of X. And so you look at it that way, and you will put in the time, you will put in the effort to make sure that you're maintaining those things that Adam was talking about, that relationship, those processes, to make them do that after action follow up.
Yeah. I was wondering too, I back in the day operated in New Jersey, New York, Eastern Pennsylvania, Lower Connecticut. So we had a fairly small footprint, and I'd get the bankers together. Yeah, again, this was I'm old, so this is pre-branch transformation. Um, but even then, early ATMs for those of you out there, pneumatic tube systems, a lot of this stuff took a bit to get adopted, and we would get the groups together of the ones that were really successful proponents and prospective customers, and get them together for breakfast or lunch and golf, and let them sell to each other, um, because that they're the most comfortable with that. When they hear the success stories from one of their peers, um, it seemed to make that sales process a lot easier. I again, I'll go out to the group here. Do any of you get your branch transformation customers together, to talk about things? And we did it as a very social thing, a breakfast, a lunch. Again, if you ask bankers to come play golf, you'll usually get a pretty good group, or you did in the day, and let them sell to each other and talk to each other, because you do have your champions out there, and you do have those people that you can use in your marketing program that will give you the snippets, the video clips, the quotes that you can use when you go to the state banking shows, and you do that kind of stuff and use them to sell to each other. If you've got those success stories out there, how are you using that? How are you moving that forward? What are you doing, any of you on the call, to build on those successful customers, to bring more into the fold of, we're going to do every branch. We've got 10 branches, we've got 4 done, we've got 6 to do. Here's the finance, here's how this is going to roll out. Are you using your customers to sell to your other customers? Anybody want to share those stories? This group is not talking today. Come on. It's
Well,
it's
BJ,
not
that is
Monday morning, people. Come on.
BJ, that is an interesting question. Do the folks at FSPA, the bank, the members that are there, do they ever go to the state banking shows and just walk around, talk to their customer base, and maybe some new customer base? It's a good way. You don't have to have a booth at a show. Go there and walk around and just have those conversations. Walk up to other folks that are presenting there, and you may become part of the conversation and say, oh yeah, we've done that, we've done this, and you can have those conversations because you're educating them right along with that person who has the booth. You're educating them also that that this may be a possibility of something you need to look at, or something you've learned along the way, and then you may get a new customer out of it. Who knows? But those are valid things to do. If there's a state banking show or a credit union banking show, or credit union show, I shouldn't say banking and credit union is the same thing. Sorry, but you walk those shows, talk to those people. It does not hurt. Some of the best things that have ever come out of it is when we were not showing at all. We were just walking.
Yeah, you're not tied to the booth. The other thing you
Correct.
can do is offer to do a presentation. Most of the bank conferences and credit union conferences are always looking for speakers. And if you could get one of the bankers to present with you and talk about how you rolled this out and what you did and what the process looked like, and kind of do an educational session on it, with the shameless plug at the end, to me, that's another way to get traction on the customers that are kind of on the fence and not making a commitment to the rollout. Um, and again, learning from your peers, I think is a much more comfortable situation than sitting across the desk from a salesperson. We see that at the FSPA conference. I mean, one of the reasons why I devote so much time to networking events, and yeah, we're going, here or there or the other thing, but there's a lot of time for people to just sit and talk. We've tried to change the exhibits into a more interactive sit and talk at a table and, have a drink with somebody. And is this idea that a lot of what you learn about what's successful and what's happening and what's going well is from talking to your peers in another area of the country, or how are they handling this? How are they selling? How is it going? What are they doing with their training? How do they do their follow up? Um, so the idea of getting that peer together with the peers to learn from them instead of you being the salesperson in a push sale, to me, eases the process. They'll take that other banker's experience very seriously. You can say what you want about how great it went, but once that banker says, yeah, this was a complete home run for us, then you've really opened the door for your follow up and for your sales success. So, boy, come on, gang, this group out here. Anybody got any stories to share? I'm looking at the names of some of the people on this, and I know that you're successful out there, and I know you've got some great stories to tell, but nobody's talking today. You could
BJ,
do,
maybe it's either too cold or too warm wherever they are.
yeah, really. Come on, we'll go back to talking about the weather. Well, I'll pick on Adam because he was a banker for a long time. He managed to escape that life, and he's come over to the dark side. But Adam, what when you were going to implement new technology or you were in the branch, where did you get the ideas? Where did you get the feedback? What
Well, I think the ideas come from problems a lot of times.
made you decide to take a leap of faith?
I'm sorry, I think my internet cut out there for a second. I think I understood the question. When most of the ideas around new technology or implementing a change comes from solving a problem. And so if there's a pain point, there's likely a solution out there that'll fix it. And so it's a matter of um, just figuring out how do you make things better, um, either improvement or a fixing of something that's broken, a process that's broken. Um, the other big thing is these financial institutions talk like crazy to each other. It's almost as incestuous as our industry, where the bankers talk with each other just like we talk with each other. And so I think a lot of what I've already heard spoken about is very valid, that you want the financial institution folks being your voice, and and sharing that among peers. So
Okay. All right. Well, it's if nobody has any questions or any other topics they'd like to discuss, or nobody wants to talk about their session, um, just I'll give you a minute or two. Again, I'll put in a plug for the Branch Transformation Committee is going to present at the FSPA conference on Wednesday morning in Fort Myers on May 3rd. And I'll send a link to the conference to anybody. Email me, bj@fspa1. And we're always interested for your feedback. If there's somebody on this session that wanted to say something but didn't want to because their competitor was on there, or there was some reason why you didn't want to talk, and you email me. We're always looking for additional topics for these sessions to address the issues that you're interested in. So with that, I will thank my committee for their time today. I hope you all have a good rest of your week. This session will be up on the FSPA website probably Monday or Tuesday. And thank you, everybody, and thank you for your time. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, BJ.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you for getting this
Okay.
together.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.